West Bay, and by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331.
Talk Today is proudly brought to you by Pirates Fest 2022. Stay in the know. Get the full event lineup at piratesfestcayman.com.
And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Truly honored to be able to have a discussion to focus on academics and education and to welcome once again the annual KPMG Brain Bowl. We're going to tell you more about that. Please join us after the break and be mindful that the Honorable Premier at the 1 p.m. Headline News will be your guest for something else. So can you imagine on a Friday what we're going to have? Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow,
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. And if I may say publicly to our students who are always diligent and studious and apply themselves and make that sacrifice, hey, keep up the good work. It does pay dividends. To our teachers in particular who constantly encourage and nurture and ensure that the homework is not only set but marked and feedback is given, thank you very much. But to those corporate entities and individuals who volunteer, who give of their time, their talent, and treasure to ensure that that continues, well, thanks very much. So from KPMG, very special welcome to Ms. Deanne Blackman. And I think that, when we look at the idea that increasingly we've moved from what was personnel that became human resources, that became talent management, we appreciate it's not just semantics and name changes, it's how do we develop people? So welcome, Mom. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
I believe that if we can have, whether it's a pub quiz, whether it's a general knowledge quiz in the STEM letter schools, whether it's just family around the table, bantering, we can learn so much about what has happened in history, what is happening now, but also how to think. Tell us, let me welcome you and tell us a little bit about the Brain Bowl. What was the impetus? What are we hoping to achieve? And how much fun it is as we talk to our students.
Yes. So the Brain Bowl, so this year was our 9th annual KPMG Brain Bowl academic tournament. And we were so excited to have it this year after being able or having to postpone it due to the pandemic. So our last one was in 2019. So our people at KPMG, our volunteers, we're super, super, super excited to have the tournament as well as the students and being able to see 11 schools participate this year. We streamed the tournament live on Facebook so that way, we could have our family members and friends tune in. And the whole goal behind Brain Bowl is to, unite the schools on island from, both private and government, and, encourage student participation across all high school levels across years 7 through 13. So it's a unique opportunity where they get to come together, meet new friends, make new connections, as well as, see what they can learn.
And the beautiful part, I think, that as students, but primarily as parents, we watch competition amongst the children in the schools. It's usually on a sports sort of environment. But to have, a fine arts competition, to have an academic competition, it gives all the students an opportunity to find something that they're interested. If I might, before asking of our students, can I turn to you, right, Ms. Deanne, and say, not just from a teacher or a coach, but from an adult perspective, in that you've seen these young people, and, well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having us.
Share with us two things, not just as an introduction, but what does this mean to you as that adult holding that space for the next generation?
We're so proud of them. They get lots of opportunities at school, a variety of clubs that they can attend, and Brain Bowl is a really nice one. Just seeing this, we have a team of 5 students, but at lunchtime we have a variety of students that are coming in, so we could have up to maybe 10, 15 students, and just competing, and it's just a really nice opportunity for them to get involved in teamwork, collaboration, learning as well.
It is very much about the competitive students who really enjoy learning new things and have a variety of knowledge, and it's really about having fun, because we do want to have more fun in our working day rather than just exam, and we know that some students can get stressed, and we enjoy the fact that we can have Brain Bowl where they can relax a little bit and do what they enjoy.
Use different muscles. Well, from Cayman Prep High School, let us introduce our students, and with Ms. Deanne's sort of guidance, let the students speak for themselves. They give you a voice. My fine chap, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is George Green, and I was one of the 5 Cayman Prep and High School students who participated in the KPMG Brain Bowl 2022.
My name is James Anderson. I obviously also participate in the 2022 KPMG Brain Bowl.
You sure?
My name is Scarlett Akiwumi, and I also was in the Cayman Prep Brain Bowl 2022 team.
You know, as we sort of laugh, and I think we laugh as adults because we know the pressure that you will be on the students preparing. We know the expectations that you have of yourselves. But when you're up there and you're answering questions, you're having fun. But it's about challenging yourself as much as it's about competing. So let's go to James first, in the middle. What made you want to be a part of this?
I guess it's the fact I've always enjoyed learning. I can always just, the ability to test what I know, find out what others know, and be able to, I guess, take advantage of that to take advantage of my competitiveness.
And that is so evident, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about winning, it's about pushing yourself.
Yeah.
Scarlett, what about you? I mean, I think back to the year before last when we had it, and I'm sitting and I'm watching the different teams from the schools. We'll talk about that in a second, the participation, but you don't only want to win, right? You want to demonstrate something to yourself and to your teammates and put a stamp on it. What made you want to, and how did that feel to you, being a part of the team, going through the training, the preparation, and then on the day of competition, standing and being counted?
Obviously, a big goal, I think, of all of us was to win. And I did feel quite, when we first got there, I felt a bit nervous because I didn't realise how big it was going to be. I saw the teams and I started watching everyone competing. That was also very, kind of nerve-wracking. But when we actually did end up winning, it was very, I don't know, I felt really confident by the end, so it was very Right.
So George, as we go into the break, you, as your teammates shared, would recognize that there's a competition, not unlike the player on the football field. This is the final match. You win, you take the World Cup. You come second, you didn't win. What is that like for you? You're the nerve-wracking, that sort of seminal moment. Hey, we got this.
Well, I mean, I don't know if there was a point in the competition where I actually thought we had got this, because all of the other teams were really, really competent and equally matched. I mean, I think there were some questions, like James has got a massive skill and knowledge of football, and so football questions, stuff like that come up, which really helped us as well, I think. But I mean, up until right at the very end, it was nowhere. It wasn't like a football match where you're probably going to win this one. We were really it wasn't determined until they said the results. It was a really, really competitive competition where all of the participants were really very skilled and equally skilled. I really thought at one point we were going to lose to the dual enrollment UCCI because their team members were very knowledgeable about all sorts of things. So I mean, it is definitely, I would say it's different in the sense that, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. I think that is nerve-wracking but also quite fun in the sense that it is really a bit of an unknown.
Yeah. So when you come back from the break, Ms. Diane, let's talk briefly about the other teams and what the competition is like. Because we hear a Brain Bowl, we're thinking, oh, it's all math, science, and philosophy. We're understanding that there are questions that are important. You know, who won the football championship? You know, important things that people need to know. So we can maybe set the stage for that.
Yes.
All right, we're going to pause and take a break. Invite you to stay tuned and to listen to understand that learning is fun, not just because your parents say so, but because it's true. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Here is where tradition never dies. This is your radio, Cayman.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skin care, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drportercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks very much. And if it seems that I'm excited in order to be a part of this discussion, I am. To steer students not only get a little time away from school and having to face, the constant, what was in my day, the blackboard, but to understand that learning takes place outside the classroom. The development of that social interaction that you gain takes you through life, and to their teachers who give tirelessly in school after hours is important. But for KPMG, for annually sponsoring the academic, Brain Bowl tournament, I think it's important. It's Diane Blackman as the manager for talent. That notion that we can now not only look for future partners and employees and other sort of colleagues across the sector. We're doing something now that is meaningful.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So tell us about some of the teams. Tell us about the event. I'm excited to get back to the students, but I want to hear from you.
Yes, so for our 2022 Brain Bowl, we were excited to welcome 2 new teams this year, which was the Year 12 dual enrollment students who placed second, and also Calvary Baptist Christian Academy. So we were very excited to have them come on board to enter a team for the very first time. We also had school teams from Triple C School, Lehman Scott. They flew over a team from Cayman Brack, Cayman International School, Grace Christian Academy, John Gray, Clifton Hunter, Wesleyan Christian Academy, and then St. Ignatius, who also placed third. Congratulations as well to Clifton Hunter. They received the Team Sportsmanship Award for demonstrating great teamwork and positive attitude, not just only amongst themselves, but amongst their peers and the other teams that were there on the day. So just want to say, congratulations to all the students who participated, because it was a very exciting day, and trying to guess along to some of the questions myself. It was really fun being by the AV team and hearing them also trying to guess along. But the students did an amazing job, and we just want to commend them for that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because I don't believe that we can successfully, effectively multitask. I just try to do that then. A parent listening and share the message with me, and with permission, I share it back. On your point, they were with the colleagues. There was an attendance of certain parties, as adults, some of whom have professional qualifications. She has admitted, like I had experience, being in attendance. We didn't know the answers to the questions. So to the teachers and the coaches, how do you prepare your students? Because some of these questions were important football questions. Some were actually stuff that you.
We practice twice a week, so we encourage as many students from year 11, 12 and 13 to attend, just so that we can have competition and fun. The more students, it's more fun. And then we just kind of, myself and Miss Bago, just decided who we thought would be a good fit for the team, just from having watched them practice for a while, and came up with our superstar team, our winners.
We really tried to find, we knew that we could bring 5 students, and we tried to think, okay, who's amazing at maths, who's amazing at history, who knows a lot about literature, and we just sort of tried to find somebody who would be a great fit for any question that came up.
Yeah.
But it is difficult. Like we can't really expect what sort of questions are going to come up in each round, and the students really did us proud.
Cool. I thought, that you had just looked at, James and said, oh, we just want best hair. And for George, who's the most photogenic? But that's not what you did. Guy, it was, nah, just tease. True, you find might, Miss Akimomi, when you see these competitions, and I'm glad that you referenced the notion that it can be nerve-wracking. And I liken it to, the tennis player waiting to receive the serve. There's a pressure on the server, but you're waiting to see how you're going to return this. There's the audience, in this case, you got the spectators around the stadium. You still feel that level of pressure that maybe we as parents and as spectators don't appreciate. You know the answer. Do you have the answer then? What's the color red? Red? How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot you can do to prepare for that, because many times during the competition I'd hear the question and then I'd be like, I know the answer, but then I'd be too quick to say the answer, so I didn't have it in my head. And then if it goes to the other team, I think of the answer and I'm like, oh, I missed it. But yeah, it is a lot of pressure.
All right. So James, it's not only that quick recall, it's also you're in the moment, you have to get it, but you're feeling this thing. There's the nerves, but also, you know what I'm talking about.
I guess there's the fact that even when you're listening to them reading out the question, you think you may know the answer, but then you need to wait for the whole thing to see what if they're asking about this instead. So, there's always that pressure of, do I answer immediately? But then you have to think, if I do it too quickly, that gives also the other team even longer time for them to come up with the answer. So there's that pressure of also needing to get it right.
Yeah, you got to ring in the buzzer in time in order to be able to respond. But if you don't hear the full question, that's the right answer, but for the wrong question. George?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think maybe one of the drawbacks of me being on the team was that I did sometimes concede to the pressure of hitting the buzzer immediately.
No, man, no.
But I think definitely I learnt, maybe a thing I can take away from the competition is patience, because, there is that pressure of, I've got to get it right. Yeah. But, no, it is.
If I might ask, and only if you wish to respond, I liken this participation very much to taking that exam. We put pressure on ourselves. There's a time limit. You have to do this thing. Is it similar in preparing? Is it in performing? You're in the class hall for us. Back then it was blazing sun, booms were locked, no AC in the skin. James?
I think in comparison to an exam, it's different. I feel exam might know what's ahead. It's what we've covered in class. But I think the Brain Bowl, it's not even particular about what we learn in school, but I think it emphasizes what we do in our own time, and it highlights the natural brightness of the students and not just what we do in school.
So temperance, patience, participation, but also being congenial and amenable. I look at, Deanna shared with us, the awards they're given to other teams for sportsmanship, just like you see in competition. So from that perspective, Deanna, you're looking for many things at the end of the day.
Yes, and I'm just listening to their responses, and it's making me smile because yes, it is, an academic tournament, and we do have subject-based questions, but, we do have questions around Caribbean history, the Cayman Islands, general knowledge. We've touched on sports. So it's really, almost kind of bringing to awareness of the importance of, being well-rounded and aware of, what's going on in the community, current world events that's taking place. And it's also a learning opportunity as well for those in the audience, because after each question, regardless if a team gets the answer correct or not, the moderator will always say what the correct answer is. So it is a learning opportunity for everyone in the audience.
If I may ask, from the coaching, teaching, we have this view, gradually it's changing of what teaching and learning is supposed to be, where it's supposed to take place. And anything else that happens outside of that is extracurricular or is whichever. But we're merging knowledge now with application. So, from the teacher's perspective, give us that public idea that learning is a new paradigm.
Yeah, as we said, the students have so many opportunities for learning, and they don't just have to happen in their periods 1 to 6 during the school day. So there's lunchtime opportunities, there's after-school opportunities, but from what we see as well, it's like, how do they know that? Where have they learnt that before? It's not just happening on campus, it's happening everywhere. They're so exposed to so many learning opportunities, not just from us at school, but
not formal, not structured, there's constant.
So it's very formal, very structured at school, and then all these lovely lunchtime clubs and after-school activities, but there's so many opportunities outside as well, and we see that, like, how do they know that answer? Where did you learn that from? It's incredible what they know. So would you agree?
Definitely. I think as well it's been a big learning curve for us. I think you and I have definitely learned a lot through them, so it's sort of like flipped learning. We're always impressed by them and what they know, and it's really incredible. I know that growing up I never had a club like this. There was definitely never competitions like this. Maybe other than pub quizzes, that sort of thing. So it's great that there's actually like an academic tournament on Ireland that students can get into.
And that it's beyond just the things that are there. So when we come back from the break, could we ask our students some of the questions that were asked? Well, what do you think of them? Were there any particular questions that you liked or that may have stumped you or that got you to discuss after? Is it okay to talk about the event and give some previews for what the next winning team should do? All right. Hey, stay tuned and join us after the break.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
a caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
The Heritage Day series, brought to you by the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage, continues with the Panton Heritage Day, Friday, October 14th from 11 a.m. to 12 midnight at Nurse Josie's Senior Center at Cowood Beach. Celebrate your district and Caymanian heritage, local food, performances, fireworks and more. Panton Heritage Day, Friday, October 14th from 11 a.m. till midnight at Nurse Josie's Senior Center at Cowood Beach.
As the community continues to take precautions from COVID-19, it is important to stay prepared for other disasters now that we're in the hurricane season. Here are some post-hurricane safety tips from the Department of Environmental Health. Did you know you must ensure all utensils are washed with detergent and rinsed with hot water if they make contact with flood water? For full guidance on post-hurricane safety tips, visit www.deh.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to KPMG and specifically to Mr. Jan Blackman for representing wonderfully the organization, the academic tournament that you've turned Green Bowl. Let me make sure I understand this from what you shared in the past. This isn't just something that is done here or that KPMG does here. This is part of your sort of global.
So KPMG has a global commitment to lifelong learning. And essentially that is supporting education initiatives, not just from a primary school level, not just high school level, but also while working with KPMG, for young professionals and experienced professionals. So we strive to, drive the education agenda through supporting initiatives like Brain Bowl or hosting work experience students or internship students with us, or our scholarship program. And through those different avenues, we try to promote education and the importance of education, but also a tool and a reminder that education doesn't stop at high school, or it doesn't stop at the end of university. You're continuously learning.
And that's the thing that I think that, my mother, she doesn't mind me saying, long before it became what I think now is a cliche, especially from the policymaker, you have to be a lifelong learner. She did it by example. She does it by example. She points to her head and says, once you have it up here, nobody can take it from you. You learn constantly. James, from that idea that your colleagues said, hey, you knew all these answers about things because you're constantly learning about stuff and you engage. Into the break, we were asking, were there particular questions that intrigued you, that stumped you, that you kicked yourself for after they talked about? If I can ask each of you, is it okay? Share with us about the tournament.
Obviously, like George referenced before, football.
That's something that matters, right?
I think the variety of questions that they ask, I think everyone can find possibly a question on something they're passionate about. Stumped probably most questions outside of that or history.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, history's past, right? Scarlett, what about you? Any ones that you really, I should know this, I like this, or no, that? What questions, what categories, as you wish, as you preparing, as you answering, as you competing that day?
I really enjoyed the more just random general knowledge ones, because something that I really enjoy outside of school is just, doing little quizzes here and there, just with completely general knowledge questions. So I pick up all these random facts. So I really enjoyed all of those ones. The ones that I were a bit more stumped about were maths questions, because I take a really long time to do any maths. So those ones were my favourite.
And that's the thing too. I mean, the math particular can be something that you need a pen and paper. You need time to do it. You may or may not remember the quadratic equation, but if you have it to reference, you can apply it. So George, what about you? I mean, some of the questions, patience, they say. Well, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, so my more of area of, I wouldn't say expertise, but maybe bit of knowledge is in history. I really like history. I take it at A-level and stuff like that. But I mean, there were a lot of questions, even history questions came up that I didn't know. There were things that came up that stumped me. Obviously, us three, we weren't the maths ones on our team, so we were all anything maths. We just instantly oh no, we don't know. But history questions, stuff like that are kind of my kind of area, because I've got a bit of a passion for history, as well as maybe not as well as Scarlett. She's the general knowledge queen, but maybe there's some general knowledge that I know as well. But I think, just things like that, really, yeah.
As I listen to you, I think back to teaching. We want interpersonal skills. We want them to understand the importance of respecting others' opinions. How do you collaborate and cooperate? Your teaching, as you reference, is extending beyond what we as parents demand of you. The academics, what's my child's grade? And you're teaching life. You're teaching them all these things. Help us to appreciate how this helps you to do that.
It's just really for me, it's just to get them working as a team. That's something that everybody needs to use throughout life, and we definitely saw them working as a team during the competition, along with all the other brilliant teams that were there from the other schools. They sort of knew what each other's expertise or area of knowledge was, and they worked together. A lot of the time they'd buzz in and then spend a good 8 seconds discussing an answer, and I think that was really nice to see.
All of 8 seconds. Wow.
Yes.
I got Bull Rider. He goes 8 seconds.
It's intense. We were on the edge of our seats.
Yes, for sure.
I think we aged about 10 years just from the attention.
The final round, we were definitely.
Yeah, but I agree. I think it's just seeing them do teamwork. Also commitment. We said to them, we're going to practice twice a week, lunchtime. So it's they're giving up their time, and they would attend Rainbow Club. And they would be there, and they would be happy to be there. So just showing commitment as well, and also just cheering each other on. If they got a question wrong, it'd be like, don't worry, it's okay. Thanks for trying. There was never any criticism or judgment, and I noticed that with all of the teams that competed at the Brain Bowl.
I keep making references to sports, not because I'm necessarily skilled, but I think oftentimes we appreciate that there is that pressure on the field, the court, whatever that sport and activity, to do that thing. There's the penalty shot, for instance. There's all these things. We don't always understand that unless it's a timed exam. That pressure that we feel we place on each other. Before I ask Ms. Dion, let's go back to our students. You're preparing, you're giving up willingly. Lunchtimes, you're also preparing in absence of your teachers, individually and collectively. You're collaborating. James, with you first. Is that a sacrifice that some people say, oh, you're such diligent, or is that?
I personally never view it as a sacrifice because I just enjoyed doing it. Again, just trying to test my knowledge, being competitive. So I never really saw it as a chore or anything.
Scarlett, what about you?
Yeah, the same. I find I really enjoy learning. I enjoy mostly all of my subjects in school. So any time where I can learn even more, I really enjoy. So.
And George?
I'd have to say it's not a sacrifice when you're doing something that with people who are respectable and also enjoying it. It can't be bad when everybody around you wants to do it, and it kind of makes you want to do it too, I guess.
Okay. But then that isn't that in the end of the day what employers are looking for. What as a colleague you want in your how can this person collaborate and bring something to the table? Are they willing to look beyond what may be the obvious answer?
Yep. And again, I commend the students. I'm listening to their responses, and it's just putting a smile on my face because, patience, teamwork, collaboration, communication, those are all skills that you need within a work environment. And, these are transferable skills that they can learn through participating in Brain Bowl that they can use, in their university when they go on to, pursue their university degrees or, go on to get their their careers to get full-time employment. So it's very rewarding to see that they are learning these skill sets, and these are soft skills that that they can be taught, but I think just seeing that they're saying it's not a sacrifice, and it's something they enjoy and they're passionate about, and putting in the hard work and dedication, it's really great.
And it's me. I recognize that, and I'll say, just like I don't like the word persons when it's plural unless it's in a legal document. I say people. We say soft skills. To me, they're essential skills. I don't know that word has that connotation. So, to the teachers, as we speak to our parents, as parents, we demand of you at our parent conferences. What's the grade? What's this thing? How do you get us now, as parent and as policymaker, to appreciate that teaching and learning probably occurs better, more enjoyable, and is retained in these environments as opposed to that classroom that is shaped, with the four walls and as comfortable as we make it, because it's that mindset that we've created. If that's a question that you can answer in the next 4 days, we'll have it for a typed space.
Personally, I always find that parents are really grateful when you've made learning fun for their children, and they really recognise that. And they do voice that back to you. They're always really happy when their child comes home. They've learned something new, but you've also sort of sparked a passion in them, especially when it comes to what you teach at school, what your subject is, and you have kids that aren't so much engaged to begin with, and you really have to get them on board. That's a task in itself, but when you enjoy doing that and you want to help them, it becomes easier with time.
And just speaking, like we just had a parent-teacher meeting this week as well, the parents do want to know about the grades and how much progress that their child's making, but they also want to hear how they're, if are they contributing, are they happy in class? So it's just having a mix. So not just about the grades, but we want, and ultimately my aim as a teacher is for my students to want to come to my lessons and to want to be there and just to enjoy it. I just want them to learn and have fun.
Thank you for emphasizing that. And I say that because I recognize there's been a significant societal shift in the way we look at teaching and attendance at school and what is important. And that grade, that acknowledgement, that acceptance to some space is important. But it's what these students have exhibited, the fun, the willingness to give up a weekend or lunchtime without it feeling like a chore. So as we close out the discussion, we'll start first with you, Ms. Scarlett, and then Diane, you can get the final word. What was this experience like? Would you do it again? What you would want to share? Even if you wish, how could we make it better for successive students? Each of you respond as you wish. Ms. Scarlett?
I just found this experience very fun. I'm quite competitive, and also as I've previously said, I really enjoy learning things, so this was the perfect opportunity for me. I definitely want to do it next year. And I can't think of anything that would make it better because it was just so good this time that I went.
I thought about it. I think, just have chocolate on the table, but that's just me. James, what about you, man?
I think the fact that you can go and you can, see these questions, I have no clue, but you can see someone else, just like you, who it does know what that is. It shows you how bright the people on this island are, and how the variety of different people we have here, the variety of different passions. So I think it's really eye-opening experience.
Yeah, man.
And it gives hope for, I guess, the future of us.
Cuts across all grades, all schools, and it serves to unify us. Thank you. George?
Well, I think, first of all, that it's a really fun competition, and I think it's an absolute privilege to take part in it. I'm very thankful of KPMG to provide this opportunity to us. And then I'd also say, I think that if you're a student who's looking to do the competition, there is very, very little kind of in the way, there's no downsides to it really, because if you're scared of public speaking, you can develop your public speaking skills. If you're a bit, you've got stage fright, you can develop on that. And if you're perfect in every way other than, in that regard, then you might as well learn something, right? So, no, brilliant competition. I'm very thankful to it.
Good for you, Miss Blackmore.
Well, I just want to take this time to thank all the students again and all the teachers and coaches. I know, it took a lot of time to prepare as well as to come out on the day. And, this year our theme was supporting local entrepreneurs, and we had a personal message from Bear Girls, the co-founder for Becoming X, talking about striving, to achieve their full potential. So again, it's not just about what they can achieve in the classroom, but their full potential outside the classroom. So we're very thankful for their Bear Girls message, as well as the cookies from Cayman Cookie Company and Eco Eats, because again, we're also educating our students that we need to be environmentally friendly. So again, another learning opportunity that we wanted to employ.
Well, I thank you very much for hosting this, for the investment across the divided, the collaborative approach, and for students recognizing that this brings together all of us in different facets. And at the end of the day, we look in the mirror, we're all one and the same. So, may you continue to enjoy learning, may you continue to contribute, and maybe we see in each other a desire to share that love to our teachers, the passion that you have and the successes that you have, not just today, but extend to the next generation. So thank you. All right, we're going to pause and take that break. Invite our parents to continue to love, nurture, and pray for and with our children. So join us after the break.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. The Ministry of Agriculture will host public consultation meetings to discuss the draft Cayman Islands food and nutrition security policy. The first takes place Monday, October 17th at the Northside Civic Center, 7 to 8:30 p.m. On Wednesday, October 19th at Boddentown Primary School Hall, 7 to 8:30 p.m. And Wednesday, October 26th at John A. Cumber Primary School in West Bay, 7 to 8:30 p.m. In international news, actor Robbie Coltrane, who played Hagrid in the Harry Potter films, has died at age 72. He also appeared in the detective drama Cracker and the James Bond films GoldenEye and The World Is Not Enough. In a statement, his agent Belinda Wright confirmed the actor died in hospital near Falkirk in Scotland. Elon Musk is under a federal investigation related to his $44 billion takeover deal for Twitter. The news came from a court filing made public on Thursday about the latest in ongoing legal disputes between the billionaire and the social network. While the filing said he was under investigation, it did not say what the focus was. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Born in Creek, Cayman Brac on the 25th of September 1939, Henry Mansfield Connolly was the third of 8 children for Henry Kitchener and Olive Connolly. Following a 30-year career with National Bulk Carriers, he was one of few Brackers who worked with Cayman Energy Company doing the ship-to-ship oil transfers off the island in the 1980s. Following a medical injury, he retired from sea and started his own plumbing engineer company, C&H Plumbing, which he owned for 16 years. Prior to relocating to Grand Cayman, he was a volunteer during hurricane emergencies, assisting with the safety of the elderly in his district. Mr. Connolly was one of the original band members of the famous Brac Beach Boys, a member of the Sister Islands Veterans and Seaman Society, and also a member of the Seafarers Association on Grand Cayman. In 2003, he was one of 500 Seamen Medal honorees for their contribution to the Southwell years.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
89.9 Radio Cayman helps you to weather the storm during this hurricane season.
One of the most crucial elements of hurricane preparedness is storm awareness. During the season, it is of utmost importance to pay attention to the latest local weather forecast, as hurricanes do not suddenly form or strike. There are various methods of advanced notification. Utilizing such may be the difference between a favorable outcome and disaster. Both television and radio serve as excellent mediums with up-to-the-minute storm path information in the wake of a hurricane. Another method of tracking a hurricane may be only arm's length away. Your smartphone or tablet can be your most valuable tool before, during, and after a storm, providing countless numbers of apps with crucial hurricane information. Many apps allow you to track storms with moving radar and satellite imagery, plus offer alerts, current conditions, forecasts, advisories, and even video.
This hurricane preparedness tip was brought to you by your community radio station, Radio Cayman, 89.9 FM.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thank you very much for joining us. We're expecting the excellent company of the Honorable Premier momentarily, and we are asking you to be mindful that, as it is in many instances, the work of our civil servants, not unlike the work of our elected leadership, is consistent, constant, ongoing, and sometimes, they can justifiably feel as if we as a populace are just so demanding that we don't always get to appreciate how much their value. So we thank them and we appreciate that their schedules at time allow them to be able to do the things that they want to do when they want to do, and other times it's such that they have to move and groove with the flow, as they say. All right, 949-8037, 949, 8037. I was just thinking of something else, Miss Susan. But let me just quickly, on behalf of the wonderful Miss Ventisha Connolly and the entire team over in the ministry and the great folks behind the Paris Week, that today the Panton Heritage Day is being observed and enjoyed. Tomorrow you have North Side, but enjoy today. The North Josie's Center on the Code Polo Beach, and it's going to go from now up until midnight. So go out and enjoy yourselves. Tomorrow, join the good folks over at North Side for the their Waterkey Public Beach again from 10 a.m. to midnight. You'll probably miss the wonderful discussion yesterday if you weren't able to tune in and hear the Honorable Minister together with the other guests sharing and enjoying and laughing along with Miss Laura. It was fun to sit on this other side of the table and listen to their discussion. So whether it's for the food, or whether it's for the fellowship, or whether it's for all of it, go out and enjoy it and celebrate, and be mindful of how easy it is for your culture at times to be neglected, sometimes to be relegated to the sidelines, and often leads you to show less than absolute respect and appreciation. So from the culinary creations, to the colorful commentary of your citizenry, it's always important to appreciate that as a people we share and we celebrate, and for many of us, we remember the practice within our offices, at least in the private sector, where you get, the day or a part thereof for your district or your district of choice to go and enjoy. You remember the practice that the office would probably nominate, one or two staff members during the lunchtime to head out to that respective district and get the wonderful cuisine that was on offer and bring it back for everybody. Now, there are many of us who have particular fond memories that we recall about the events. Our families would come and share and celebrate. Perhaps it's time again to understand why we do some of the things that we do. How do we revisit to make sure that when we're doing the things that we do, that is not only a healthy respect in our endeavors, but we're achieving the objectives that we set out. I think that starts from an acknowledgement that we need to be more respectful of ourselves and of each other, and to say publicly and stand in the gap for those things that we believe in, and stop allowing ourselves to be constantly berated and to accept the barrage that sometimes we encounter because we choose to stand in the gap. Now, it's not, I don't believe, acceptable that just because we say, well, I don't mean to be offensive, and then proceed to say things that are. But by the same token, should we not say something out of concern that, although it's truthful and it may be hurtful to those hearing, that we should not say it, and ask ourselves if that thing which we say privately or in that seemingly space that we believe is safe, we refuse to not only say it publicly, but when we do make a comment, it contradicts our own, widely held, entrenched belief. Well, something to think about. With that in mind, though, let's have some fun, or let's get serious, or let's have serious fun, as you wish. And let's hear from you. 949-8037, 949-6990. Toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. It's a Friday, and there are not only the Panton District Day in the one north side, but we're going to go into the festivities and extend throughout the coming months, as we try our best to find a way to bring more enjoyment and entertainment, find a way to perhaps redevelop and redefine, perhaps reposition certain things, but at the end of the day, maybe find a way to exhibit greater respect for self and for each other. And the needed sort of respite that many of us require. With that in mind, God's willing, as of Monday, for the remainder of the week, I'll have a couple of days that I'm hoping to enjoy without too much fanfare or demands, but that'll be that. So let's enjoy today together. 8949-8037. Toll free with the compliments of Flo. 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us. We have scheduled the Honourable Premier to join us, and gladly we'll look forward to that discussion, to be engaged and informed as he arrives. And with that, maybe you might want to broach a particular topic with us. I'll say this, that as we listen to much of the commentary from some of our listeners, who obviously and very thankfully have been engaged in other platforms, whether talk shows, whether in other spheres, they've been very cognizant of some of the things. What, as a fellow last evening shared with me, what is particularly concerning to him is the seemingly unwillingness on, from his perspective, unwillingness on the part of some of us to more actively take on some views. I give as an example. If you have perhaps seen the piece, if you haven't, take a look. The amendments to the proposed amendments to the public health legislation. Received it from a number of different sort of quarters, as it were. And the only thing that seemed to resonate from all the comments was that there was some concern as to what extent the wider public would see the changes, and to what extent those changes would be positive. How do they impact people's lives? How are we responding to people's wellness and livelihoods? To what extent powers would be vested in some interested entities, and could they create cause for concern? But as a fellow who, I say, he'll be the first to acknowledge that perhaps in a different life he would have loved to either study medicine or law, but not something that he took the opportunity and made that level of commitment to engage in those earlier days to study. But as an active, engaged member of our community, he finds that too often we allow things to transpire, and even when it's obvious that there is a void, and nobody is addressing it, there's this seeming unwillingness to comment. We seem to just let it slide. Well, maybe not. Hey, 949-8037, 949-6990. Or toll free with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. And share your thoughts with us and engage as you wish. And the whole notion that for there to be a sense of a democracy, there needs to be this willingness for people to be present and presently engage. And maybe it's what we enjoy, maybe what we have. So, shall we, Ms. Susan, what's your directions? As we invite the Honorable Premier to be, part of our discussion and to ensure the platform is there, we're going to pause, have him assembled, and then when we return, we engage in the conversation. Please stay tuned.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointments.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. The ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom. The land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
60 and bossy with J and money. When I trip it easy, trust me. Yeah. Come on, just send some money. I instant entry. Look how you're lucky. Bossy, J and money, bossy. J and money, send you go a yard. Teen, bossy. Jamaica well bossy. 60 and bossy. We well proud.
Celebrate Jamaica 60 with J and money for a chance to win a dream vacation for two to Jamaica, including airfare, resort stay, and more. Send money for a chance to win. Your loved ones will also be entered for a chance to win a brand new car. Competition runs from now until December 24th. J and money 60 and bossy enough.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at J&M Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
Bossy, Jamaica well bossy. 60 and bossy.
No J&M bank account required.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Puritan Cleaners, now using the most popular and eco-friendly cleaning solvents. 2 convenient locations to serve you. Savannah Countryside and Eastern Avenue, Georgetown. Drive-through, rain or shine. Free pickup and delivery services available. Call Puritan Cleaners, 949-7104. Also ask about our in-house discounts. Puritan Cleaners, you feel good when you look good.
Puritan Cleaners, 949-7104. That's 949-7104.
Attention farmers, in the event of a storm, the DOA reminds you to take precautions with identifying and safeguarding livestock. Cattle and horses should be loose in pastures that are not prone to flooding. Other domestic livestock, such as pigs, goats, and chickens, should be kept safe in their pens and cages above flood level. Livestock aged 2 months or less should be secured with their mother in a pen or kept loose with their mother in a safe and sheltered area. For livestock emergencies, call DOA Veterinary Services on 916-2218 in Grand Cayman or 925-5765 Cayman Brac, or email ci.agriculturevs@gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to political leadership, to the Honorable Premier for joining us. And I've said this a number of times, and hopefully I've said it accurately, respectfully, and responsibly, that as a country we should not take for granted the safe access that we have to our political leadership. Sometimes it seems almost unfeathered that we're able to speak to, in supermarkets, in gas stations, sometimes across the fence. But I would also ask us as the citizens to be respectful. Just because we know them, just because it's accessible, that we don't abuse that we don't ever do anything to cause that to change in terms of safety and access and the like. And that we use that time as it is the most precious commodity in a responsible, appropriate way. And to you, sir, and all of our politicians today for allowing us as a general public to be able to call on you, for you to come publicly in platforms like this and share directly with the listening public. And that, I think, what makes Cayman one of the most beautiful places. So, for what it's worth, sir, heartfelt thanks.
Well, Dwayne, thank you very much. And let me just say it's a pleasure to join you here this afternoon. I think it's probably been a little while since I've been on the afternoon show.
I had to hear when you last were. I know what you told me.
I told you your eyebrows look like you've been shaving them too, but I think it's just that they've gone grey, so they've become almost invisible.
They're matching the rest of them.
But yeah, no, in terms of your comments, one of the good things about living in a country like this, where we have safety, is you can go around, you can do, just be a normal person, and that's one of the things that I enjoy the most, because I consider myself just a normal person, and I have no issue with talking with people. I would just ask that if you say to them, "Sorry, I can't talk now because I'm on my way to do something else," that they accept that as being accurate and not an attempt to just fob them off. Oftentimes when you're on the move and you're going somewhere, you run into people and somebody says, I need to talk to you right now. It's like, well, I can't really talk right now. So. But yeah, thanks. Good to be here this afternoon with you. The morning show seemed to have been dominated in the last week by the opposition, and I guess maybe even towards starting off at the end of last week. That's what happens when you don't show up to work, so you have the luxury to go and do something else, and come on the radio. Not even to come and deal with your own matters that you've filed. But so just happy to be on it with you. I know there was a comment on Wednesday morning that I think it originated both with the opposition as well as the host, that that I didn't come and make an announcement on the radio in terms of Radio Cayman. Truth is, they were booked. I wasn't going to use my executive authority to come and kick somebody off, because then that would have created another complaint. So what I did do was I made sure that Radio Cayman had the relevant press statement, and they also had the recordings well before their deadline for the news. So Radio Cayman was absolutely taken care of. All I simply did was leave them to their pre-booked platform and go and speak on another media house in order to discuss it after it had already been released by Radio Cayman. And of course, I'm speaking about the latest press release in relation to the Speaker of the House and the resignation and departure from the role of Speaker by the Speaker of the House on, was that Wednesday morning?
If I might ask, was I'm reminded many times that we have conversations, we believe because something is so widely aired that everybody knows what is transpiring and the like, and it's not unlike professionals speaking amongst themselves using their jargon and without appreciating that not everybody understands the language. So in this instance, there's a resignation received from the Speaker. I will ask you, it takes effect when? Who's the new Speaker? If I might just...
Okay, so, there was a previous press statement which had been issued by the Speaker the week before, indicating, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday the week before, indicating that he was stepping down as Speaker. And at that time he indicated that it would be effective November 30th. Now, there was some discussion around that. I'll deviate for a second.
Yes, sir.
There was some discussion around that by certain guests on some of the radio shows, I think perhaps for the record as well, that it was unprecedented to have a Speaker step down, say that they were, resigning, but give a future date. That is completely inaccurate. In fact, the current Speaker of the House, Speaker of the House of Commons in the UK, is Sir Lindsay Hoyle. Prior to him, it was a guy called John Bercow. And John Bercow himself, I think, said when he was leaving, he said I don't remember the exact time frame, but I think it was something like, he said in July or the end of July, I will be retiring from office or leaving office as Speaker in early October. So, there's also a number of other situations in which that has occurred with speakers.
Okay.
So it is completely inaccurate, either from a constitutional perspective or just in general, to suggest that it's somehow unfounded or improper or incorrect for someone to resign, say they're going to resign and give a prospective date, which is, month and 6 weeks in the future.
Okay.
So no issue there whatsoever. Of course, this came about because of me, because of my approach to the Speaker, both initially privately, but then subsequently publicly, asking him to step down as Speaker for the good of the country and the good of his family. And I certainly respect the fact that he agreed to do that for those reasons. Of course, subsequent to the last meeting of Parliament, we had a separate discussion where, he concluded, perhaps with some suggestion, that it would be best to bring this to a head now. So again, I think he did the right thing. He reached the right conclusion.
And that would be, as per his letter, effective end of November?
No, his most recent letter was that he was prepared to, which was a part of the press.
Yeah.
No, sorry, it wasn't issued with the press statement, but the details of it were in the press statement on Friday. Wednesday.
Today's Friday. Yeah.
Wednesday morning. Today's Friday. Yeah.
I thought
a
Monday was
lot
Friday.
can happen in a week
Yeah.
in politics, as you know. So,
A day's a year, huh?
Not can happen in a day, much less. So you know, he as of Wednesday morning, I'm doing the same thing again. As of Wednesday morning, he indicated that he was stepping down and vacating the office. So he was not going to wait until the previously indicated date of November 30th.
Okay.
And I think, you know, it was the right thing to do. Now, that leaves a situation where the deputy speaker is effectively the acting speaker for the time being.
Right.
If there was a need to call the House, you know, some urgent need to call the House, then she would be acting as speaker. At this point, we're not intending to have another meeting until probably early December. And, you know, between now and then, we have to have the discussion about who ends up being the permanent post holder.
Right.
Whether that is the current acting speaker, Catherine Ebanks Wilkes, or whether it's someone else, either from within the House or outside.
I know there's much debate. We have another question from one of our listeners asking about, you know, pros and cons, and your, you know, having a speaker from inside or outside, and your preference. I'll leave that to you whether you wish to address.
Well, that's not something that I would really want to. I mean, I can discuss it in general terms,
right?
But you know, I'm not going to give any indication of what my specific views are on that right now.
If I could ask of you, just because I think this whole scenario again, and I want to speak into those who have, I believe, greater knowledge and insight, have weighed in to say that as a country, as an electorate particularly, we need to become better informed and aware of, you know, our not only our civic society and civic responsibilities, but our parliamentary process, and the idea that we have this thing that's happening that many of us have no clue how it unfolds, and when something, you know, does rear its head, we respond without really fully appreciating the consequence or even the circumstance. For instance, we now have a deputy speaker who would be the speaker potentially if a meeting was held next week or the week following, and someone asks, well, is there a speaker of the House, or is it an acting speaker, or is it automatically the deputy speaker is speaker? For clarity.
Well, right now there is just the deputy speaker who becomes automatically the acting speaker. Right. If the or acting presiding officer, if the House was called.
Right. We know that in the UK, under their unwritten constitution, by convention, after an extended period of time of something happening, it becomes the accepted norm by convention, right? And there is, probably since my recollection, since just before the 99 Partnership for Prosperity, that white paper, there was utterances within the UK that they're going to be making some changes to their system, but don't expect it to be anything overnight or anything immediate and in time. I say that to share that again, UK university professor has said the Westminster model is something that needs to be revisited in different ways, and he's done it from the political sort of academic university setting as to what would work. I should have to ask then that in our system where the opposition is now the government in waiting, and their design is to, hey, you know, we want to get there, we want to look good. Part of it is the perception is that to look good, we got to make this one look not as attractive, right? Is that part of our challenge, that that's the system we labor under, and it creates to the public, well, why are they fighting each other? We elected them to work together. Well, it's an adversarial system.
Well, I mean, that's true to a point.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think within that, there is lots of scope for bipartisanship. You know, there's nothing to say that you can't work with with the government, or the government can't include the opposition in the things that they're trying to do, and try to reflect that degree of bipartisanship and get the best possible outcome for the country. What I have found is that, unfortunately, there is a lot of cynicism that exists with, in some politicians, perhaps too many, that suggests that, they don't want to work with the other side, and they don't trust working with the other side. And from my beginnings as a member of the government between 13 and 17, I remember there were instances where I was insisting on taking a bipartisan approach, and the leader at the time was saying to me, "You'll learn. You're gonna find out that it's not worth it." But to be frank, I do still believe that even though you may be jaded by negative experiences trying to work with the other side, I think you continue trying to do that as much as possible. Yeah. So just as an example of that, my colleague, the Minister for Financial Services and Commerce and in Innovation, Investment and Social Development, Mr. Ebanks, Andre Ebanks, he reached out because we had this piece of legislation, which was really a significant, a landmark piece of legislation dealing with the changing of the structure around the way we provide financial assistance to people who are vulnerable and in need of assistance. It was previously under this very unfortunately called piece of legislation was the Poor Persons Relief Law, right? I mean, that in itself doesn't speak kindly to to being that Christian character of wanting to help people. If you're going to label them and stigmatize them right off the bat, but that's what it was. But when we did the draft of the financial assistance bill, he reached out multiple times to the opposition to say, here, we want to do a presentation to you so you understand what this is about and what we're trying to achieve, the kind of transformational approach that we're trying to take to providing financial assistance. And didn't get anywhere, didn't get any response, which I think is unfortunate. I would tell him, continue to take that approach. If they don't want to participate, then you can't force them. But at least you have given someone the opportunity to hear in some detail, what this is about and what we're trying to achieve. And they have the opportunity to provide some input. But these are the kinds of scenarios that, in the past I would have been told, see, there you go, that's what you get.
You still learn.
You'll learn. But so that is unfortunate. But my encouragement to people would be to continue doing it.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that, because that speaks back to what I was saying earlier. As a populace, sometimes we don't understand or we don't quite appreciate what is unfolding.
Yeah.
I go back to the very early days when the word opposition was being used. And I say early days, I mean just in the last maybe 15 years or so.
Yeah.
Many of us, as mature, responsible professionals, were saying, well, wait a minute, we didn't elect anybody to be in opposition. I wouldn't hire you to be in my company or a manager to a board without appreciating that it wasn't that. Not unlike the comment that sparked perhaps much of the discussions where, the then Speaker of the House referred to the people in the gallery as strangers and offended many without appreciating that.
That's just a term that's used historically.
Historically, it was perhaps archaic by then, but it was an accepted term, and the parlance was known and accepted by the parliamentarians.
Right.
Us as the populace who were unfamiliar, what do you mean? I know you for, what you call me a stranger for, boy?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I agree.
It is something that I think that perhaps I say that to be mindful that a little learning is a dangerous thing. How did
I don't think it's a dangerous thing necessarily, but I think I agree with you. I think these things are useful to do, The more we can educate people, the better they'll understand.
Yes, sir.
And the more we reduce the risk of misunderstandings based on something that somebody heard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get it very often, and you know, I mean, even things like people will say to me, so and so did this. You know, why don't you just that's wrong? Why don't you fire them? It's like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people don't understand sometimes that there's a distinction between the elected government and the civil service. You know, and the civil service do not work. They work with the elected government. The elected government has to work through them to get things done. But we don't control the hiring and firing of civil servants. That's not a bad thing, in my view. I think the system can work, but you know, you've got to make the system work properly as the way it was designed. And if you have any kind of breakdown, then the system starts to falter.
A very good friend just shared an article on civil society, and I'm inclined to read it at some point, you know, over the next bit while I'm here. The importance of us as the citizens in the country, and especially the electorate, to be engaged and involved. And if something isn't what we think it should be, that we advocate for it, but we're willing to defend something.
Yeah.
And in saying that, I'm mindful of your comment that I think we're okay for that person to be sanctioned as long as that person isn't us, right? And until we're willing to say, you know, wrong is wrong, right is right, irrespective of the person, then we need to ask ourselves, have we matured, are we responsible, are we sufficiently respected and respectful? With that, there's much that is now transpiring politically in our country and socially. There's much in the House. We want you to share as much as you wish, so that as a public, we can be in the know, and we can look at what it is that we could be doing and saying that could positively impact us.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I do believe that you know, as I said earlier, the more informed the public is, the better off we can be as a country, because when they're commenting publicly on issues, you don't get distracted by things that are inaccurate. You know, so like I said, I'm talking about the resignation of the speaker. To have a whole protracted argument that the speaker can't resign and give a prospective date in the future is a waste of time. You know, there are other things you can talk about that are more constructive than just that.
I liken that to a discussion I had with some people from the perspective that I wanted to be informed, because I thought I knew a little bit. The sitting government in the UK removes its political leader, which is effectively their prime minister, right? But the new person isn't going to be known till what's in months down the road. I was under the impression way back when that, you know, the party has a vote, the person is selected, and this thing happens almost immediate. All right.
Well, I think there was a whole lot of transparency around that process with the last change.
Very, very transparent, but they sit up front. We're going to do this thing at this time. There's going to be some time intervening, and it's not going to happen overnight. You got a good bit of notice, and it's going to happen. Very transparent as to when and why and how and whichever. Two things emanated from that. One, others who vote over there, who are much more knowledgeable about the politics from their public commentary, there and here, said, well, you know, in the past, when the political leadership at that time decides to change amongst the membership, the party leader, that happens almost instantaneously. What they said, at least from what I understood and asked, again, just discussions separate apart, that particular process was unprecedented, to use a word that we've heard recently. I didn't know anything differently. I said, well, you know, you probably know, I didn't spend time looking into it. No. You may have a different view. It may be unprecedented. That one individual in particular was adamant, almost dogmatic that, hey, you know,
sorry,
when
what was unprecedented?
That the change in the prime minister by the party voting and the process by which it unfolded, the length of time it took to get that vote and for the new person to be installed, would normally, according to this person's view, have taken place much more quickly than it did. The public was involved and informed that it was going to happen at this particular time, and the new Prime Minister wouldn't be known until this date. I looked at it and I thought, well, they're telling you what they're going to do, and this is how they're going to do it. What's the problem with that? You know. That person's view was, well, no. The party gets together, there's a change in leadership, vote is taken, and in today, out tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unprecedented for a change in party leadership and a change in the position of Prime Minister without or outside of an election process.
Right.
A general election process, I should say.
Yeah.
But it probably isn't that common either.
Right.
So, I'm not quite sure what somebody, the individual you're referring to, regarded as unprecedented. I mean, I certainly wouldn't regard it as unprecedented at all, but, it's not very common.
Right.
It's not very common. That's why with the system that they have, it's normally a general election which determines who ends up becoming Prime Minister, unless the Prime Minister either resigns or passes away or something like that.
Or the party leadership decides it's time for a new leader.
Yeah.
Within the party.
Correct, and that's, what triggered that contest was Mr. Johnson as the Prime Minister at the time, indicating that he was resigning until, but he would remain in office until his successor was appointed or elected by the party membership.
Right. Under Premier, sir, we do have a short break to take.
Sure.
When we come back, we invite you to continue to share with us, and to our listeners, please join us after the break.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
Can you imagine your home completely organized? At Brand Source Custom Closets, we can. We specialize in designing and building custom closets and storage units for any room in your home, including the garage. With tailored designs and custom LED lighting solutions to fit your lifestyle and budget. Our custom closets expert is committed to enhancing the value of your home with a solution that is uniquely yours. Visit our showroom or call 623-6774 to schedule a no-obligation appointment with our design expert. Brand Source Custom Closets, 209 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
Puritan Cleaners, now using the most popular and eco-friendly cleaning solvents. 2 convenient locations to serve you: Savannah Countryside and Eastern Avenue, Georgetown. Drive-through, rain or shine, free pickup and delivery services available. Call Puritan Cleaners, 949-7104. Also ask about our in-house discounts. Puritan Cleaners, you feel good when you look good.
Puritan Cleaners, 949-7104. That's 949-7104.
The Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage invites nominations to the 2023 National Heroes Day Awards. The theme is volunteerism and charitable services. Nominate a person or non-profit organization that has exceptionally contributed to the Cayman Islands. To nominate, visit gov.ky/YSCH and click Nominate for NHD. The deadline for submissions is midnight, Sunday, 16th of October. Call 244-2424 for more information. Nominate your hero, Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And again, a special, welcome and thanks to the Honorable Premier for taking time to share with us. And so, as you share, as you wish, could you, allow me to read this quick message sent from one of our esteemed listeners?
Sure.
It says, is it any wonder that the electorate is so ignorant of parliamentary procedure and civics? It says, in 1986, a young valedictorian stood at the podium of the then Cayman High School, and as part of his speech, made an impassioned plea for the formal teaching of Caymanian civics in the public education system at both the primary and secondary school levels. But to date, not much has changed. I appreciate the listener for reminding us of history, of saying that. But through you, maybe to ask, for us as a populace, and then the electorate, and the soon to be, voters who will become registered as they become eligible. What are we doing as individuals to engage, to be informed, and to ensure that that level of education instruction is not just relegated to the classrooms, as important as that is, but in our homes and in our willingness as civil servants and civil society, but as the private sector employee and entrepreneur who has, maybe a small business, and say, hey, this comment, as politically charged as it may be, this is a democracy. You're free to share it. Take responsibility for your words and actions, but you're defended because it's civic engagement. As a lawyer, as a parliamentarian, so.
Well, I mean, I agree. I think individuals do need to take personal responsibility to be interested in trying to find out how things work in their country, and importantly, how things like how institutions like Parliament works, and how legislation is brought about, and ends up getting adopted because it has a direct impact. It may have a direct impact on them. If it's not direct, it may be indirect. So it's something that we should take an interest in and learn about. But I think we also have to recognize that people are busy going about their lives as well, and some people are busy with work, and they think this sort of thing is less interesting. So when there are issues that arise that sort of raise the level of interest, it's useful for us to take advantage of those opportunities to ensure that we advise people around the points, so that there is.
Are we at risk?
There's nothing like putting something in context in a particular set of time-bound circumstances for people to grasp onto something and understand, want to understand it, and then actually do understand it.
But perhaps it's only when something affects us personally and directly, or someone to whom that thing is important because that person is important to us, that we engage. Are we at risk then that when someone speaks to something, either for or against, that we look at them and say, oh, there's that agenda, there's that ulterior motive, as opposed to, if he doesn't mind me sharing, always admired Mr. Billy Adam, as he said, as great as he may be, as annoyed as people may be of hearing him say, he's trying to publicly educate people on a variety of topics, after which he himself has gained a level of insight, not for any ulterior motive or agenda, but he's coming, helping to.
He's self-motivated. It's just a desire on his part to learn, learn the process, learn. We have these shows on TV called How Science Works and how things are built and all this kind of stuff. People are more interested in that most of the time than they are in the perhaps more esoteric things of constitutions and what kinds of governments and what kinds of democracies and how does the Westminster system compare to this other system or that other system?
Right, that comparative approach.
He's somebody who does try to learn about it, and then he goes. It makes it his mission to try to teach others. But unless it's within a context of something that people find interesting at the time, oftentimes they're just busy with their other problems in life. But people like that can be utilized to help to raise the level of understanding and education on these points.
But to paraphrase Mark Twain, right? When he says something like to the effect that if elections mattered, they don't allow us to participate. Are we subscribing to that, or are we saying, hey, these things are important if you're going to help the democracy, but if you're going to participate, then you need to be actively not just engaged, but you need to be informed, so that when you come to the table, you can speak from a position of knowledge. And maybe we abdicate the responsibility. Economists talk about free riders. Maybe there are too many of us who are waiting for someone else to do something. We'll enjoy the benefits when it transpires to our favor, or we'll quickly separate ourselves and say, nope, wasn't me. All right.
But at the end of the day, it does come down to being interested in understanding what's going on, and I would suggest that our people do pay attention to particularly what's on the agenda for Parliament. I mean, for example, we dealt with the Traffic Amendment Bill. We dealt with the Mental Health Amendment Bill. We dealt with the Mental Health Commission Amendment Bill. We had the Financial Assistance Bill that I mentioned earlier. We had an Accountants Amendment Bill, Limited Liability Company Amendment Bill, and then the Education Amendment Bill. Now, most of those things actually relate directly to things that contribute to what I call saving lives, helping people who have impaired ability to decide for themselves, treating them with respect and dignity and fairness, and then restoring dignity for those who need assistance, reinforcing our service excellence. That's around the financial services, things like the Accountants Amendment Bill, the Limited Liability Companies Amendment Bill, and then protecting young people from bullies, and that was the reason for the education bill, amendment bill. And of course, the Traffic Amendment Bill was an amendment to reduce the blood alcohol concentration level from being one of the world's most lenient levels of 0.01 or 100 milligrams in 100 milliliters of blood, down to 0.07. So we went from 0.1 to 0.07. Now that is a significant reduction. I actually wanted it to go lower than that. I wanted it to go down to 0.05 because I don't know about anybody else, but I am extremely concerned about the level of vehicle accidents that we have in this country, the kinds of injuries that are caused. Obviously, there's property damage as well. But, you have, before you even get to the real difficulties, you have things like, injuries that incapacitate people, give them disabilities, cause them to be off work. Their productivity is impacted, sometimes just temporarily, but other times even permanently. And their lives can change forever. And certainly, in the worst case scenario, when somebody loses their life, you can't get more permanent than that. And that is, Dwayne, we've had, for a few years, we've had a motor vehicle fatality rate on our roads, which in itself has been too high, but that was around 8 or 9. And now, today, we have 13, and we're almost 3 months, 2.5 months before we get to the end of the year. And we know that the period in the run-up to the end of the year and around the end of the year is the period of time where these types of things happen more often. Imagine how we would feel if we did nothing, and we wake up on New Year's Day and we've had a fatality rate of like 16 deaths or 17 deaths for the year.
Yeah.
I mean, as the head of the government, I indicated back in November last year that on the basis of a report from the National Roads Authority and a program that they brought to National Security Council, which was designed to save lives, to reduce the amount of car accidents, motor vehicle accidents, and to reduce the overall impact of this. This is the reason why we took the approach. Why I initially said at the time, we're going to look at a holistic approach of addressing all the issues around these accidents and how we can mitigate, provide mitigation to reduce the amount of accidents, reduce the amount of road deaths.
Mm-hmm.
And this, as I said, this comes from the National Roads Authority themselves. It's not just something that I woke up one morning and decided was a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I just happen to think it's an excellent idea because I care very much, and the government cares very much about the safety of our people. And to be frank, there are a few things that are of greater importance than the government trying to make sure that the people of the country are as safe as possible. So, we brought that amendment. And interestingly, the opposition, even though they did not show up, and therefore they abandoned the amendment they had proposed by not showing up, they proposed to increase it back to 0.08.
A slight reduction, but still not what?
It would be a slight reduction, but not what I was proposing of 0.07. And that was a compromise position reached after discussion with colleagues. And it is that 0.07 is higher than the average blood alcohol concentration restriction or limitation across the world, but it is lower than what neighboring countries, including the U.S. and Canada, Jamaica, the United Kingdom, outside of Scotland, excluding Scotland, because Scotland's at 0.05. So we're sort of in the middle between the average level around the world, based on World Health Organization statistics, and those of developed countries around us. But to be frank, we have to do something. We have to send a strong message, and that was the reason why this was proposed. We all know that at 0.1 we had the most lenient limit in the world, and we also, I think, that ought to be able to accept it, for being completely honest, that translated to a level of acceptance of drink driving.
The public sort of...
Yeah. So if you want to change the perception of what's acceptable, you've got to make a significant change to the blood alcohol concentration
with a corresponding education
to reduce that down, so that people understand that this is a real issue. And I mean, aside from that, it's really important to tell the country, look, the reality is we've had 13 road deaths
10 months into the year,
and many of these may be alcohol related, and you cannot put a price on one life. So if making this change saves only one life, then I'm absolutely satisfied that it is the right thing to do.
Yes, sir. All right, Premier, sir, we do have the break for the news. When we come back, Thank you for your company. Please join us after the news.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. The Cayman Islands Health Services Authority will be participating in a full-scale emergency exercise conducted by the Cayman Islands Airports Authority on Monday, October 17th. Though much of the exercise will take place at the Owen Roberts International Airport, it may lead to increased foot and vehicular traffic at the Cayman Islands Hospital while they test their emergency response as a part of the exercise. In international news, in Iran, a video of anti-riot forces sexually assaulting a female protester whilst trying to arrest her in broad daylight has provoked fury on social media. Many are calling for justice and the resignation of the police chief. Some pro-government users also condemned the perpetrators. Despite blocks on some social media tools, Iranians are still managing to share powerful images of the protests. The protests erupted last month when anger over the death in police custody of 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian Masha Amini boiled over. Officials say she died from an underlying health condition, but her family says she died after being beaten by morality police. The Beyond Meat executive who was accused of biting a man's nose is leaving the vegan food company. The U.S. firm, known for its plant-based burgers, had suspended Douglas Ramsey, then chief operating officer, indefinitely after the incident. His departure comes amid a broader shakeup at the company, which is struggling with faltering demand for fake meat. The firm also said it was axing 200 staff, about 20% of its workforce. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky. Freedom, Cayman Rack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
When you're craving something big, something tasty that gives you that lip-smacking satisfaction, something that hits the spot, there is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
It's pretty tasty.
Filling and full of flavor. Try our new sweet onion steak teriyaki with a twist. Or the classic chicken teriyaki. Top it with green pepper, onions, cheese, and that sweet onion teriyaki sauce, all piled on your favorite artisanal bread. Satisfy that craving with a footlong from Subway.
Fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty.
Let's make it a meal with a drink, chips, and cookies. There is nothing better than a footlong from Subway.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
They say that when it hits you, it hits you. A feeling so strong that it's impossible not to give in to a juicy piece of KFC. To feel elevated by the aroma and to free fall into its exciting flavor. Some call it love, attraction, desire. We call it KFC. Ignite your senses with KFC.
In order to assist with the development of local farming, the Department of Agriculture would like to remind farmers of the on-farm artificial insemination services available for cattle, goats, and pigs. For more information on the service requirement or schedule an assessment appointment, contact the DOA's Veterinary Services section at 916-2218.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks again to the Honorable Premier for sitting with us. And Mr. Panton, as you were sharing, about some of our sort of legislative amendments that were in the Parliament recently. You referenced not just the education bill and the traffic, but also the amendments to the Mental Health and the Mental Health Commission. For the mental health aspect, would it be okay for you to ask so the public to inform what some salient sort of amendments were in there? The reasoning for those proposed amendments for the mental health.
Well, I mean, it was about basically updating the law to build in the necessary degree of appropriate controls and aspects that provided clear respect for the individual that may have been involved in that situation. We know for a fact that we have had a significant increase in mental health issues, and in the same way that where a country can be said to be judged by how they treat their elderly or treat their children, the people who are most vulnerable. When someone has a mental health issue, the same applies. So you have to make sure that that you have the necessary degree of controls around there, and that you operationalize the properly and have the necessary checks and balances in what you're doing there, because not everybody is going to agree and accept that they do have a mental health issue. I'm going to leave the details around all of this to my colleague the Minister for Health. But in just obviously in general, that's as I've outlined. That is the general approach that was being taken.
We understand that the discussion of mental wellness has thankfully been one that as a public we are very much willing to have. We are doing, and I think as much and as often as we can to ensure that we're removing the stigma, that we understand, just like that sprain that you may have received, you don't ignore things. We've received a fair bit of feedback. I've looked at the bill as it was then, and a number of people have expressed sort of two things, if I could through you ask. And looking at the provisions that allows, for the protective orders and the like, and the restriction not only to, the postal and parcels, but to electronic devices and the like. Is there, as two very prominent individuals expressed to me, is there a concern of the level of maybe powers that would be vested in the medical officer? I know there's aspects of the legislation that talks about not just a medical officer, but one employed by government as opposed to just a medical doctor. And then, more importantly, I made a note to ask you so I made sure I didn't misunderstand what they were asking. Concerns that we've seen in the UK, in Canada, and other parts to have on the guides of public health legislation is increasing the words that they use. So I repeat to you, powers under the public health legislation to restrict things, to ensure that people's sort of health is being protected, even though when they may not appreciate it, that was the intent.
Yeah, and well, I mean, those are the difficulties, right? There are people who will say, if you give certain powers that are going to bring about significant impacts, deprive individuals of their freedom on a temporary basis. Obviously, it's all done in good faith. It's all done with the intention of ensuring that the individual is safe, or that they're other people who may be, impacted or involved are safe. There is always going to be a concern that, this is a draconian power. And the challenge is to make sure that you build in controls and you build in conditions in which these powers can be exercised. And then you make sure that there are ways to have a subsequent review of those within a reasonable period of time. Subsequent review of that decision within a reasonable period of time.
Right.
Because, that is just, sometimes, you want due process, but sometimes you have to take action, and then due process has to follow immediately afterwards. Because you're trying to save lives. You're trying to protect a person from themselves or from possibly harming others. And that's where these difficulties do come in. And I think we're also completing and very close to being able to open up the new residential mental health facility as well, long-term mental health facility, and that is going to be another very significant contribution to the resources in the country to help our own people. Right. That a lot of our own people who have had longer term mental health challenges, they've had to be sent away to foreign countries where these services are provided, and these facilities exist. And having this facility on Ireland is going to be critically important to demonstrate that we're looking after our own people in the best circumstances, where they're close to their families and where they're at home. A country that they recognize, or a place they recognize as still being home, right? Even if they're in a facility where perhaps their freedom is curtailed.
Yeah, as expressed to us, could we, as committed today, to individuals in particular, concerns that the public health aspect of will be transferred from under the guise of the Health Services Authority to under the ministry responsible for health? Is there some who have alleged that a transfer may occur?
There is a proposal to, and I think it's been discussed publicly. There is a proposal to set up public health as a separate, a separate organization, separate department, because public health is something which by its nature is supposed to have oversight across all health service providers. And it's about all of the aspects of health and well-being and healthcare in the country, identifying communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases, and getting reports on those, and figuring out how to assess whether there's a particular risk and whether there are certain policies that should be implemented or suggested, and figuring out whether particular institutions may be reflecting some degree of risk more so than others. And at the moment, public health is connected to our Health Services Authority. When it that causes a problem in the sense that, or one of the problems that it may cause is that other health service providers may look at it and say, well, this is a competitor telling us that, we've got to report to them. So there were many reasons why, but I think there is a proposal which will make this effectively a standalone. And I think Cayman has an incredible record to build on to put itself as a center of excellence in the region for public health. We have had the benefit of the services of one of the, very preeminent public health persons in the world, doctors in the world, and that is Dr. Attilia Newton. Now we have Dr. Nick Gent on board now, who is going to be, or is now the new CMO, Chief Medical Officer. And these people are incredibly experienced when it comes to public health issues. And it puts Cayman in a position where we can have an unprecedented level of real contribution to the public health discussion in our own country, but even more so to be able to be a center of excellence in the region for public health. So I think as a government, and I share the view of my colleague, the Minister for Health and Wellness, Mrs. Sabrina Turner, that we need to have Cayman pursue that approach, set up a public health institute at the end of the day, so that this kind of thing, because remember now, we all grew up, we all went to school, and we've all heard of, in the past, we heard of pandemics, and we heard of the 1918, 1917 Spanish flu. Nobody thought we would ever in our lifetimes see it. And I've spoken to some doctors, many doctors, who have public health experience, who will tell you the same thing. Nobody really anticipated. Yes, there have been, for decades, we've had issues around different hemorrhagic fevers, and we've had Ebola, we've had SARS, we've had MERS, but nobody, I think, really expected to see a pandemic in their lifetime. And here we are. So we still have one ongoing, right? And one of the reasons that it is speculated that this has occurred is that we have so much encroachment of human activity on the wild environment and with interaction with wildlife, and that is going to continue. It'll continue to get worse before it gets better, and therefore there's significant risk of these types of things happening. Where virus jumps from animals into other animals, into human beings, and that is a significant risk. So we have got, as a country, I think we owe it to our own people, and this is quite apart really from a pandemic risk. We owe it to our own people to provide the best possible public health approach, so that our citizens as a whole are as healthy as they can be, and they can have the best quality of life. And another reason that it's important for us is that it is unsustainable for us to continue a situation where we have every year significantly increasing levels of costs borne by the government to help people manage their health and their instances of different diseases and conditions. And if we can make our people healthier, we're not only improving the quality of their lives, but we're reducing the costs that government ultimately has to contribute to, particularly for people who are not able to help themselves.
With respect to your time as well, so not to belabor, but just out of curiosity, or for clarity, this new independent body under which Public Health Cayman, or Public Health Institute, what sort of timeline are we looking at that may take effect?
Well, I think there's an ongoing discussion about within the civil services to, how we organize that and what the timeline is. But it is, I think, going to be sooner rather than later. And I don't know exactly, but let's say I would imagine that we should be able to accomplish this over the next 12 months. I don't know exactly what period within that timeline, but it is certainly doable. So, all these types of things we're doing to try to improve the lives of our people. And that's why I went through the process of outlining the bills that we took, because probably 3/4 of those bills were designed specifically to impact in a positive way the quality of life of our people. Dealing with the Education Amendment Bill was to be able to facilitate the regulations around anti-bullying. And I don't know about you, but I think most people are dismayed. And many who are parents are scared to death when they see all these fights and all the bullying and stuff that goes on in schools. And we know it has a very negative impact on our students. So this is a lot of this is about improving the quality of life of our people. And that ought to be the focus of any government. It is the focus of this government.
I'm hoping that we as a populace come back to, ask you to guide, chastise if necessary, if my view is off. But as a populace, we engage, we become part of our PTAs, we assist our schools in many endeavors to ensure that teaching and learning is in a safe, nurturing environment, so that we are responsible parents. We are ensuring our children understand the importance of self-respect and respect for others. That behavior that we see in our schools shouldn't be tolerated. We shouldn't turn a blind eye. I don't know about anybody else. I understand the school's response to it, but I wonder if we are cognizant of the potential conditioning that we have. Take, for instance, and I don't think that anyone would question my commitment in promoting what UCCI is and could become. But to see our students walking in and being searched, putting those wands that you see, that to me is institutionalizing our children. The old high school, where, my view, you have chain link fences, you had gates under which one child would leave one gate to the next, reminding me of ships going into a lock and then the water's pumped in and then pumped out. Reminds me of what we see in prisons elsewhere. Now, I deliberately paint a very negative
picture.
That's an
interesting analogy.
Yeah, because that's what I experienced only after teachers, parents, and students said, "Have you been there?" And I go, "Well, no. Take a walk and then come back." And they gave me something to look at after. And I wanted to see if what I felt, experienced, aligned with what they shared, so that it wasn't influencing my view. And they shared the same view. Now, we're looking at safety. Is safety something we can achieve without conditioning and, getting our children so accustomed that this is what you will experience going into a teaching and learning environment? And is that teaching and learning environment so unsafe that this is what has to occur in order for you to be safe? We need to take responsibility as adults to make sure that these things are not tolerated. And how do we get there? So we can't point fingers unless we're willing to step up and offer up positive assistance.
So, in terms of your view, your comments, and you say that your experience leads you to feel that there is too much restrictions around the freedom and access to schools?
Not restrictions to freedom and access. That is an issue in and of itself. But
are you saying it conditions students into feeling that they're sort of within an institution
And
like a prison,
like a
is
prison,
that what you're saying?
like a prison. I mean, how do you feel going into school? You've been to university, right? And to get to that university, you stick your arms out. And I don't like TV much, but I'm sure we all watched it. And there's a one, put over your bag is searched, your person is searched, and you can pass through. You're a young, impressionable mind. Is that something that we want?
Well, I mean, I went to prep school when it was just a primary school, didn't have high school. And it was right next door to Cayman Islands High School. And we were always, we always had fences around us at that time.
Dividing the properties.
I went into, well, not just that, but I mean, the schools have a responsibility to provide safety for their students.
Right.
So there wasn't freedom to just come and go.
Fair enough.
The same thing was true of Cayman Islands High School when I went over there, as many of us did. And there was, there were fences around that as well, and controls around whether you could come and go. So I don't particularly recall feeling that I was unduly impacted by that.
But today, the experience is different.
Well, I suppose, I mean, I can imagine today experiences being, including things like, getting your bags checked or getting wanted for bladed weapons or, heck, I suppose you can't exclude the possibility of guns being taken in as well. So, but that's unfortunately some of the risks that exist, that have developed over time in our society, and we've got to try to find ways to mitigate that and reduce it. But at the same time, you can't ignore the reality that there is that risk. So risk assessment has to occur, and then you have to decide whether it's warranted to take the necessary steps to physically verify whether these weapons exist. So, I mean, those types of issues are challenges not just in Cayman, they're all around the world.
We've seen some of the UK schools respond in a positive way to address that. And why I appreciate you allowing us is that, again, come back to my earlier comment. We as the public, as the adults, the parents, how are we offering ourselves to ensure that we're making a positive contribution? And, as I mentioned in our comment, and I understand the schools' reasoning in public, acknowledgement of what they're doing and why they're doing it. But if we're pointing fingers and we're not saying, hey, how do we get involved so that we create a safe environment, but we also ensure that that impact on our students isn't one that is negative. It's interesting how we're willing to accept certain things. The drink driving, for instance, there's some of us in a circle where there's no question that, before there's any sort of promotion, here's a group of people, this is the person who will not have any alcoholic consumption, even in the dessert, because we're going to get everybody home. There's no campaign, there's no thing, it's just a group of friends being responsible to each other. And then there's some of us who will say, well, I only had one little sip or one glass or one whichever. We need to have that understanding that this is the social ethos. Maybe we'll get there through time and through a concerted effort. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we have to do, we will be doing, is a lot of public service announcements, particularly around the recent amendment to the law, to have a much bigger focus on making people conscious and aware of the restriction. But even much broader than that, just trying to, in a very concerted way, raise the level of awareness and understanding that if you are going to be drinking, and if you're going to socially drink, then don't drive.
Exactly.
Even if you think that you're okay, if you have been drinking, don't take the risk. Because, as Mr. Connor says on his show every morning, the life you save could be your own.
Yep.
But it could well be
somebody you actually care
your
about.
family member.
Yeah.
It could be somebody you care about in another car.
Exactly.
So,
Mr. Panton, can we from our messaging system just asks 2 final things, and then of course you can share as much as you want. This one says good afternoon and says, Mr. Premier, when are you going to stop allowing 10 stories on the 7 Mile beach, 7 Mile stretch? There's no beach for these proposed hotels. Puller Beach cannot handle the volume on the cruise ships. Have no place to go except the Puller Beach, and there are no facilities. Kind of upsetting. So 10-story buildings, maybe for another forum, but that message reads that one.
Well, I guess there's one of the responses to that would be that we have many buildings there that have been built a long time ago that are not the current 10-story proposals. There are discussions around, if we allow higher buildings in certain areas, conditional on being placed further back from significantly further back from the sea. Is there a positive benefit to that as well? So there is no easy answer to these issues, but one thing is certain is that we cannot just do nothing because climate change is occurring and these impacts are going to continue and they'll probably get worse. And the approach that we've taken in the past, unfortunately, has been that we have been too accommodating in terms of allowing buildings to be placed in the edge of the dynamic beach zone, allowing structures like walls to be done there, and we're now facing the consequences of those. And while the government is looking at and working on a beach renourishment project, there is no point to doing something like that and continuing with the approach that has been taken in the past, which has resulted in the impacts we're facing now with erosion, particularly around the southern end of 7 Mile Beach.
Right. The last thing we wanted to ask of you involves sort of food security, and we've received food security. Yeah. We're receiving a number of compliments, I would say, relative to initiatives on the part of individuals, either established farmers or aspiring entrepreneurs to do that. Someone was sharing that there's this organic farm that is, I guess no pun intended, springing up, that is looking to service the Cayman sector, use healthy greens, organically, vegetables and the like. Where is that whole sort of approach in the government's agricultural agenda, and maybe the level of support, assistance, technical, financial, otherwise, to that sector in that initiative?
Well, we are very supportive of food security related issues, and that has never been highlighted more than in the context that we have faced with initially because of COVID, the supply chain issues, our difficulties in getting a reliable supply of the types of products that we have consumed for some time, and then more recently, of course, we've had the issues around inflation, as well as, or compounded by the supply chain issues. So if we can encourage, if we can incentivize, and if we can facilitate the development of operations that are, pardon the pun, green, and which are able to supply our food nutrition in a much more reliable way, then those are very good things to do. So the government is very supportive of those kinds of approaches, and we do have one particular proposal right now, which we do support, and we're trying to work through one of the issues because there is a particular agency, a particular regulatory agency that is involved, that is relevant, and we're trying to work through how we get some support from that regulatory agency to facilitate this particular operation or others like it.
Okay. Wow.
So so it is. I'm hoping to get that resolved as soon as possible, so that we can provide this level of support and move forward and have the entity and the individuals involved who are very keen, and I think who have demonstrated that they have the ability to do it. When you can take something that isn't planted in earth and grow it and provide samples of it that is nutritious, that is delicious, I think that kind of thing bodes well for Cayman, because we do have a limited amount of land, first of all.
Arable land, yeah.
Secondly, there's an even more limited amount of arable land.
Yeah.
So if we can have a facility which generates very fresh, nutritious food, greens in particular, they're gonna make us more healthy, and if we can do that in ways that they're reliable, they're resilient against diseases or weather impacts, then that's an ideal approach to food security.
National security, food security, semblance of independence.
Very much
All right.
Interconnected.
Well, we thank you, sir, to our listener that posed the last question, asking about the upcoming referendum, when and what. We were not expecting you to answer, but I just wanted to reference that came in. Any other thoughts? Sorry, you may want to leave. I'll leave you the referendum issue to include or not. That's up to you. But
so what?
I'll leave it whether you wish to. This last listener, we still had 2 questions, so we're going to honor that. Ask about the referendum. When is it? What's going to be like? But I won't ask you to do that unless you choose to.
Well, I mean, I can just generally say that there is this proposal to have a referendum, probably by about the middle of next year, and we will begin working on the legislation, specific legislation for it. But I've heard different people say it's a referendum on gambling, for example. No, the referendum is not on gambling. The referendum is on whether or not we have a national lottery.
Okay.
Because gambling itself, as it is now in Cayman, is illegal. And we don't propose to change that.
Okay.
We propose that we have a carve-out for a national lottery.
Yeah.
So that is what we will be putting to the people.
Right.
And then, of course, there is the question of decriminalizing marijuana. That doesn't mean legalizing it. It means decriminalizing the impact on those of particularly our young people who utilize it for whatever reason, and have found in the past that those things, even though they perhaps grow out of that and don't use it anymore, they have longer term. Those convictions have longer term consequences, and there is no reason why we should take that approach and maintain maintain the status quo. So that's another thing that we'd like to put to the people to get their confirmation on. And there may be other things. There may be things, for example, like building heights. What do the people of the country want to see? I can tell you, I also have a plan that I'm working on right now, which will hopefully move forward and result perhaps 6 months down the road in a very clear indication from the people of the country of what they want Cayman to look like, what they want Cayman to feel like, and all the different permutations around that.
Mm-hmm.
You remember when we did back in the late 90s, I think it was, we did this initiative called Vision 2008. Well, that went out to the people. That involved the views of the people being communicated. There were some issues with it. It didn't have political support at the time. And also, I think a lot of the conclusions and a lot of the recommendations weren't expressed in a way which reflected the smart approach of being specific and measurable and tangible and time bound and all this sort of stuff. And that is how we want to approach this, to make sure that we are, whatever we do, we are planning whatever initiatives we have.
Mm-hmm.
We plan around and ensure that we have a clear view and a clear steer from the people of the country as to what they want. Because clearly what's happened right now is that rampant capitalism has resulted in certain issues around that we experience every day or that we see, which doesn't please the people of the country.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like their quality of life is impacted, or they feel like Cayman doesn't look like Cayman, it doesn't feel like Cayman. And at the end of the day, it's important for us to reflect the longer term views of our constituents. So if we do something like Vision 2030, we're going to have a clear idea of what kind of steer that involves and what people want the country to look and feel like, as we approach and pass that time frame. So very clear guiding views from the constituents, from the people of the country. And that is something I think is very much worth engaging in, being out there and listening to people, giving them the opportunity to be involved and to provide a clear steer and contribution to that, whether it's to do with the built environment or whether it's to do with softer things, and it could be education, it could be all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the types of things we want our people to be able to feel that they have had an input, so that when 2030 rolls around or 2035 or whatever it is, they know that the initiatives that the government has taken, the policies the government have implemented, have been designed to bring about the types of things that they want. That's the kind of planned approach we should be taking. I mean, yes, there are times where you have to, you have to do what's in the best interest of people, even if they don't think it's in their best interest at the time. But the majority of it is about making sure that our country looks and feels like the country and home that they want.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate you allowing us to engage you for this next time.
Absolutely, anytime. I will be taking advantage of the opportunity more often, I think, to come on here. I might have to fight the opposition to get onto the morning show, it seems.
We have gloves, but we can share with you. So don't referee.
So.
But thank you very much. And, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with Mr. Art.
Always a pleasure to join him, too. So.
Yes, sir. Well, enjoy your weekend, and to you and all of our parliamentarians, to our citizens in general, blessings for safety and health,
And indeed, same to you and your family, and to all of the listeners, all of our wonderful people in the Cayman Islands. Let's have a wonderful, safe weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Come through it to have a positive work week going forward next week. So,
amen.
Thank you all very much, and one love to all of Cayman.
Well, it's a beautiful, blessed place. Let's not deny who we are, what we are, and to celebrate and showcase the history and the heritage. And as we go to Panton today, Northside tomorrow, let us engage in the food and the fellowship, and let's be prayerful that, as you shared, let's get there safely. Let's go back home and be able to be a part of it. Thank you, Miss Susan, for everything. I have never seen her smile, so much. So I think it must be, your charisma and charm. To our listeners, I'm going to be, God's willing, officially taking a couple of days off next week. Could borrow your boat, sir?
Well, how about you come fishing with me or something? Because I need to take a bit of time off.
hey, I got two brothers who happily join you, so let's do that, huh? All right, hold you to that.
All right.
As Dr. Premier said, be blessed until Monday.
God bless you.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331.
Talk Today is proudly brought to you by Pirates Fest 2022. Stay in the know. Get the full event lineup at piratesfestcayman.com.
And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brack and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the